Okay, so my name is Aura Moreno, and I'm one of the organizers from the Forum BIOTechno 2021. And I'm very happy to have here with me, at least virtually, Bertsy Goic, a scientist, first of all, and also an illustrator. So she has had more than 15 years of experience in research. She did an engineering studies in molecular biotechnology, and then a PhD in biotechnology. And then in 2017, she created DrawInScience, and she is now a full-time scientific illustrator. So we are very happy to have her here with us to share her experience on how she went from a PhD in biotechnology to being a scientific illustrator. So thank you very much, Bertsy, for being here with us today. And so to start with, could you please give us a brief description of your background?
Yeah, thank you for this invitation. It's a great pleasure. And regarding my background, as you already told, I am engineer in biotechnology. And during my PhD, I work in a salmon virus, more in the applied part, because I was working, studying the replicative cycle of a virus. But then using this information, I create a test and test for diagnosis and also a prototype for a vaccine. And then I moved to Institute Pasteur. And during this time, I was working with host pathogen interactions with mosquitoes. The idea was to try to understand how mosquitoes transmit virus to humans. So in this case, I use Drosophila and mosquitoes amorel. So I have a background mainly in molecular biology, immunology, cell biology, and these kind of things.
And so how did you go then from this background, using this background and your PhD in biotechnology, molecular biology, to being a scientific illustrator? How did you change completely to this new area?
Yeah, in fact, it's a quite long story because as many of us as a child, we want to draw, we enjoy this time, but then while growing up, we lose this ability or we lose the interest. And for me, it was almost the same. I was painting until the end of my college or something like that. But then during my postdoc, I started to have some interest again for scientific communication. I understand the importance to communicate with others, not only with our partners, also to your family, to try to explain what you are doing. And during this part, I was very interested in the visual communication. So I started to learn how to draw with Photoshop, Illustrators. And one thing gave me against to illustration. I started to draw, to paint with watercolors, with wash, different techniques. And then I decided someday that I could mix both the communication part and the illustration as more like an experiment. So I say, what happens if I doing in social media, mainly in Instagram and Facebook? I try to share what I know using or training myself in the communication, but also using my capacities to illustrate. So this is the starting point. And then because I have all these scientific backgrounds, I have a lot of scientific friends. So I say, could you do that, this? And I start to create illustration for others. And then I spend a lot of time doing that. I say, okay, I'm going to make the jump. I'm going to go for this scientific illustrator. And now I'm really happy doing that.
That sounds really interesting. I mean, because I think many students nowadays are afraid of doing something that makes them that they enjoy, that makes them very happy, that could make them change their career, but they are afraid of leaving this academic part of the PhD, thinking perhaps they have always been doing this, and then now there's a postdoc and all these kind of things. So it's nice to have these kind of examples where you can see that you can do what you like, and you will be successful. There are ways of, because I'm sure it must have been easy to have really said, okay, I will now go from my PhD to illustrating science. As you say, it's also really important to communicate science correctly through illustrations. So that's a very, very nice example for your career. And so can you give us now a brief description of your daily tasks or projects? So it must have really changed a lot from your PhD and working a lot with molecular biology to now doing illustrations.
Yeah, sure. It's a quite tough question because every day is quite different. And also because I am a one-person company, so I have to do a lot of tasks that is not also the illustration part. I have a lot of administrative. For example, I have to make, I am my own department of marketing or financial or all these kind of things. So part of the day, for sure, I'm doing illustrations for the clients, but also I have to send mails, I have to communicate with them, I have to read papers to understand the different projects, what is the message that they want to convey. I have to also use part of the day to my own project that is in social media. That means read papers to try to find what I'm going to, the story of the week, to learn more, to write the post, and of course illustrate. So I have different tasks, and also I try to experiment every day. So it's part of my scientific part. So I can try different tools, different ways to illustrate, or where I can be completely creative. It's just for me, so I'm not showing that, but it's the way, the place where I have the freedom to grow up, I guess. So I have different
lots of different things
yeah.
to do. And so what advice would you give on starting or changing towards a new career to a PhD student or to a PhD graduate? What kind of advice would you give based on your own experience?
I guess the most, at least in my case, because I guess there are a lot of different cases, but at least in my case, I guess the most important was to have the time to think about myself. I mean, what I like, what I want to do, what I am really, I mean, taking out all the noise that the people can say, or say, oh, you have a career in academia, you have a good path here while you're changing, all this stuff. You can take the time to say, okay, what is people saying, what want to do? And after that, start to check with people what they are doing, how they reach the different the positions that maybe you will be interested in. And of course, check your own path and say, what is my background and what I can do with that. I am here, I want to be there, what need to be there, I'm close to that, I'm far away from that. So all these kind of things, and how much time and energy I'm ready to use to reach at this point.
Yes, very important, as you say, to take into account all these things.
Of course, as you say before, sometimes you are afraid because you don't know if you are in a close position. Maybe you know how to reach there, but sometimes it's quite different. But if you really want it, you will have the motivation and the energy to do it. So.
And finally, so do you think still that you're still using, well, of course, I mean, I suppose as a scientific illustrator, of course, you are using things that you learned from your PhD, but also I think something that can motivate sometimes PhD students to change or to be confident on changing is these transferable skills that you have, that you learn on your PhD that we never talk about. like you're saying, you're managing many different things. You have to take into account finances, all these different things that perhaps when you're working in molecular biology, you never imagine yourself doing this. But do you think that still your PhD has helped you into being able to manage now your own, I don't know if we can say company, yes, as an illustrator, you're working not only on just drawing, but on many other different things. So do you think your PhD has helped you still for doing this?
Yeah, for sure. There are a lot of things that I'm using now, as you say, the capacity to work in different projects, to deal with deadlines. All the scientific culture is very important for me because I can communicate very well with other scientists. I know how the scientific life is, so I understand when they are hurry up because they need to send the paper next week, or it's very easy to communicate about the different topics. I can make questions that are important for the researchers because they understand that I understand what they are talking about. Also the management of different projects, the capacity to learn things that maybe I know that I want to be here, but I don't have all the knowledge. So all this capacity to say, I know how to look for information, I know how to filter what I need and what is not really important. So there are a lot of different things that are coming from my background.
Thank you very much. And thank you for having shared your experience. And I hope that this can inspire PhD students and our PhD graduates to be confident to make the move either towards a path like yours, as we know that now there are many people that are also doing scientific illustration, or to a different path, but to be confident of making this change. And please don't hesitate to look at the beautiful works from Bertsy Goic in her website for searching up DrawInScience. She has many really interesting different kinds of illustrations. She has illustrated events, papers, like you have said. So don't hesitate to take a look. We will add the link for you to take a look at her work. And thank you very much for participating with us.
Thank you for this time, this opportunity.